when we're talking about medication, you have MDs that give you information, right? But you also have the FDA that regulates medication. And, medications have to go through a very rigorous process before they're approved to be sold in the United States and abroad, right? Through various governing bodies. The wellness industry is quite like that. And like you said, there's a lot of gurus out there. I mean, even when I scroll Instagram, you scroll by a very convincing post about a health topic. And then when you really dig in, you find out that it's just that guru's impression of that one paper that they read. But really, they're not talking about the 5 papers that didn't show it.
Welcome to Longevity by Design, a podcast designed to give individuals access to the leading scientific information in the field of longevity. The ability to add years to your life and life to your years needs no opinion. Join us as we ask science to take the wheel. In each episode, Dr. Gil Blander joins a co-host and an industry expert in the field of longevity, shining a light and getting the answers to the key question: how can we live a longer, healthier life?
Hello, I'm Dr. Gil Blander. Welcome to Longevity by Design, how to live a healthier, longer life. We are produced by InsideTracker, your science-based guide to optimize your body from the inside out. Our guest today is Dr. Renee Deehan. Dr. Deehan is a Senior Vice President of Science and AI at InsideTracker. Dr. Deehan holds a doctoral degree in molecular and cellular biology from the University of California, Berkeley. Dr. Deehan is a molecular biologist by training and has spent the last decade guiding drug discovery and biomarker development by designing and building high-resolution molecular models of disease and creating systems that find meaning in a large-scale biological data. Welcome again to our show, Renee, and thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Gil. Thank you. It is my pleasure to be here.
Cool. So, Renee, you have been a guest here already for a few times. So instead of asking you the same question again and again, I would like to start by asking you a bit more interesting question. And the question is, can you tell me something about yourself that I'm not aware of?
Sure, I'll try. You might already know this, but all of my graduate school work was actually done in frogs. So frogs have this kind of wild genome, and it's the type of frogs I was using are called Xanathus laevis. So you can't really do great genetics with Xanathus laevis, or they have crazy genome that's considered to be pseudotetraploid. So it's really hard to just knock one gene out and hope that you see an effect, because it'll be masked by many other copies of that gene in the genome. But what we used to do is they have these, this is so random, but they actually lay these really large eggs, right? And they're maybe 1 millimeter in diameter, which is very unusual. So what you could do is you could collect all of the eggs from the frogs and break down the kind of the wall of these eggs and just take all of insides, the cytoplasm inside, and then do these like cool, in vitro biochemical experiments with them. So I got very good at eggs out of frogs and then making extracts from them as a graduate student, which is really different from my day-to-day activities a few decades later out in industry.
Yeah, I didn't know that, and that's very interesting. And actually, we have more than 60 episodes, and we haven't discussed frogs, so it's good that we are getting into frogs. So thank you for that. And very interesting information. But today we won't discuss frogs. Today we'll discuss artificial intelligence and machine learning. And you are one of the experts that are working on that, and you have a lot of knowledge about that. So I would like for our audience to receive at the beginning a bit more background about that, because there is a lot of information and confusion. And I would love you to try to define what is artificial intelligence.
Sure. So I'll take a stab at it. It can sometimes be difficult to define AI. However, just from a very simple perspective, AI is a branch of computer science, and it is focused on creating systems that are capable of performing tasks that are typically left to humans to do because they require human intelligence. So some of these tasks could be things like just general problem solving or learning from experience. So for example, if I go outside every time it rains and then I get it wet, then I might learn that it's good to bring an umbrella or wear a raincoat. So that seems like a very simple thing, but it is something that as a human being, I have learned that is part of human intelligence. And the other thing that artificial intelligence does actually increasingly well is recognizing different patterns, and especially patterns in complex data. And actually humans are very amazing at identifying patterns, but now we can kind of do it in a very specific computed way with computers. So really the whole goal of these complex AI systems is to create an algorithm or a complex model that is able to mimic the human cognitive process.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And the next question is, what is ML or machine learning?
Sure. And we hear a lot about machine learning, and machine learning is really a subset of artificial intelligence. And in this particular subset uses algorithms and statistical models that enable computers to learn and then make predictions or make decisions from a body of data. So unlike, I'd say, like a typical traditional computer program where really the programmer is providing very explicit instructions to perform a specific task, machine learning systems really improve upon their performance by being exposed to large amounts of data and then identifying patterns and relationships in that data. So to give maybe, two different InsideTracker relevant examples, an example of a machine learning model might do something like this. Let's just say that we have information about your past fasting glucose measurements. From that information and from information from many people's past glucose measurements, we might be able to make predictions about what your next value might be, right? Or if we have information about what your HbA1c value is, we might be able to predict what your fasting glucose levels are. So that's one example of maybe like a predictive model. And the other type of machine learning that we use a lot is, for example, if we take all InsideTracker members, and we might be able to kind of put them into different categories, right, of biomarkers that look similar. So it's possible that, you and I might be in the same category, meaning that we kind of have a similar pattern in triglyceride levels and resting heart rate and VO2 max estimate, then that might look really distinct from, somebody else who has the same things measured, but their values are really different. So one of the ways that we've looked at this before is we've identified, different groups of InsideTracker members whose biology looks similar to each other. So in that case, you might be able to take a new person and say, okay, well, this person, based on their biomarker levels, is going to look pretty similar to Renee and Gil. And so, this can help us do things like, potentially identify which recommendations are the most effective for different groups of people, etc.
Yeah, makes sense. And there is a lot of hype today about ChatGPT and foundation models. And so can you describe that to our audience? What is that and why it's so exciting for everyone?
Yeah, and I bet most people in the audience have probably tried using one of these models before, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT, or there's a lot of them out there. There's some of them that are, specifically focused on imaging types of, LLMs, and some of them are more text-based. But essentially, I think one of the more interesting ways that we could describe what an LLM is, it's like a very advanced autocomplete feature. And essentially what LLM stands for, it stands for large language model. And it's a type of model that is really specifically designed to understand and generate and work with human language. So these LLMs are trained on extensive amounts of text, like, nearly the entire internet, right? You could take all blog posts ever published ever, right? That you might have access to in a training corpus and train it on that. And typically these language models are highly capable of performing language related tasks like text generation or translation or summarizing something or question answering with a really kind of high degree of fluency and what we would call contextual understanding. So, you can really give it a very complex prompt. So, for example, something that I use LLMs for kind of on a daily basis, but often is, here's a random set of ingredients that I have in my house, right? Help me come up with, bread recipe or a high protein cookie recipe that involves these ingredients. It will do that. And it, can come up with much more clever things than I would be able to myself. And the reason why it could do that is because it's literally looking at, gajillions. That's not a technical number, but many recipes that have been out there and are, it was trained on. But then you can give it even additional contextual information, like I said before, like, here are my ingredients, but make sure that it's high protein. Or here are my ingredients, and I want to make sure that it's following a heart-healthy diet or something like that. So, please give me recipes that follow those rules.
Yeah. And I can share my experience with LLM. So as you can hear from my accent, I'm not a Native American and my English is not my first language. So for me, LLM helped me a lot to write. I can write only a few bullet points and ask the LLM to combine it together, and it's become a quick editor for me. And I can write a lot of text in a very short span of time. So I think that in a way, the LLM closed the gap between people that are very good writers and others that are not very good writers like me, and allow us, the less fortunate people, to get to a level that is close to, I wouldn't say as good as, but close to someone that is a good writer. So I think that it's a very good and efficient tool for that. And I would say it saved me a few hours a day to edit and edit. I'm just throwing it there and it's make my text much better. Obviously, everyone should be careful with that, especially scientists. So don't ask him to write a paper, but come with a few bullet points with your ideas, and then it's okay. But don't. I heard a lot of students that ask ChatGPT to write their essay, and then I think that the professor can catch it because the style is pretty easy to identify after a while. So be careful with that. But I think that if you have good idea and you put a few bullet point on paper, then the LLM can make a story from that, which is great.
Yeah, I think that's a great use case. And I've definitely used it to help me write emails, and I'll just kind of throw a couple of bullets at it, and I won't agonize over the language of these bullets. They're just something that generally captures my sentiment, and ask it to put it, kind of expand on that and put it in paragraph form. And then, yeah, you always have to go back and really edit it after that, because I think, I'd say it's actually fairly, I think humans are fairly good at sort of, if you've read a lot of LLM-based chatbot answers, you can sort of figure it out. But also on top of that, there are all of these tools where you could put a body of text into the tool and it will kind of give it a rating as to whether or not that was generated by AI or a human. And even those models are getting better and better. But I think that's another great example. Another thing that I often use for is if I have a lot of text and I just need a really quick summary of that text, I think it's very good at, again, kind of extracting some of the main points of it, but it always has to be reviewed. I never just fully trust it coming out of the box. So I think you make an excellent point about trusting it from a scientific perspective. And I'm sure we'll probably talk about that later. But, right now, trying to use it for scientific research it can be really helpful, but you have to be very wary of the answers and really be prepared to spend time digging in and making sure that it's not literally hallucinating something up and the facts are checked. So one of the things that I would actually really kind of ask anybody who's using these chatbots to do is pick any area where your knowledge on that subject is like aces, where you're really an expert, and ask it some questions where you have that domain expertise, whatever it is. It could be running ultra marathons. It could be, creating recipes with celery, whatever it is, and ask it to, just see how good of a job it does at recapitulating your own knowledge on that subject.
Yeah.
And that, I think I have to remind myself every once in a while, because one of the challenges of these LLMs is that they respond with a very confident tone of voice. So I always joke that it sounds like an arrogant LinkedIn blog post. It just states wrong, incorrect things very confidently. So you have to be wary of that. So that's why I think it's a great idea to test it on something where you are the expert.
Yeah, and I can give an example. I asked ChatGPT about my publications, and I know what I publish and what I haven't published. I'm talking about a peer review publication, and I've seen a few publications that are not connected to me, and even my name is not there. So 100%, you should be careful. It's a great tool, in my opinion, to edit and improve and condense or expand. But be careful not to start from that, because the hallucination is a big problem, and it's not good. It won't make you look good if you are using it from scratch, unless you are reviewing it carefully. If you are reviewing it carefully, it's okay. And I want to say that this interview haven't been developed by LLM, so it's all our brains.
All questions came from Gil's brain.
All answer came from brain, so no LLM here, but definitely LLM can help you do a good job. And now I want to maybe discuss a bit. Okay, so LLM, there is a lot of value here, and we are seeing it in a lot of different area of our life. And one area of our life that is very important and close and dear to my heart and your heart, Renee, is health and wellness. And what is your view about what LLM is? What is the value of LLM? Let's say for an end user that would like to inquire a specific question about his health and wellness. How should he approach, and what is the value of LLM as of today?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think I'm gonna actually, I'll answer this by kind of talking about some of our early conversations about potentially implementing an LLM-based tool in InsideTracker. And I would say that, frankly, because of some of the challenges with hallucinations and things like that, my own experience with chatbots, like actually I was very reluctant to want to put a chatbot into the InsideTracker product. And I know that, in conversations with you and also our CEO, I actually have done a total 180 on it. And I will admit when I am wrong, and I'm actually a really big fan of the tool that we currently have in there. And the reason why is because, the LLMs and the ones that we're typically engaging with, like OpenAI's ChatGPT 4 or 4.0, they're called foundational LLMs, and they're very general, right? Because they were trained on phenomenal amounts of information that exist on the internet, things that are available on the internet. I won't necessarily say freely available, because there's, of course, a lot of controversy around, things that were maybe inappropriately used in some of these training sets, which is a different conversation for a different day. It's fascinating. But the point is that they were trained, and they're really meant for kind of general purpose use. But the reason why I changed my mind about this is because I actually saw what essentially constraining these general models for a particular purpose could do, and how powerful that was. So what we ended up doing at InsideTracker was not just implementing GPT-4 in our platform so our users could, click on it and ask it the same questions that it could ask if they just went to OpenAI's website. But what we did was we essentially used that GPT general foundational model, but we integrated it with a very special corpus of specialized knowledge in the health that we have in the health and wellness industry, specifically our blog posts. So, InsideTracker over the course, this, but InsideTracker over the course of, a decade plus has written over 700 different articles about different topics in health and wellness. And these articles were written by very trustworthy sources, right? They might be written in review. First of all, they were written and reviewed by multiple people. Second of all, these people were experts, right? And so they might be an expert in nutrition. They might have specific expertise on, nutritional supplements. They might have specific expertise on body recomposition. They could have specific expertise on, exercise and what does VO2 max mean for health or cardiovascular health or any of these things. We'll match the expert to the topic that we're writing about. But the point is that the performance and the quality of the answers that we were able to get from using this corpus of 700 plus blog posts that we've written vastly improved the quality of information that you would get back when you ask the model a question. So it's essentially a chat bot. And instead of just having a conversation with the whole internet, you're kind of having a conversation with the power of the whole internet, but constrained through the lens of some high quality information. And then on top of that, we made sure that with every answer we provided to customer, we point back to the specific blog post that was used to help formulate that answer. So what that means is we have references that are our own and transparency. In many of our blog posts, at the bottom of the blog post, you'll actually find, different links to the direct primary sources. So I have to say that I was really surprised and impressed with the ability of these general models to then be constrained and improved by working with a very specific corpus of expert knowledge.
Yeah, it's a greater explanation. I want to reiterate what you said. So ChatGPT look at all the internet. So everything that everyone is saying and writing, doesn't matter if he's an expert or pseudo expert or someone that is just a frustrated guy or someone that have a very unique viewpoint. I call them a guru. There are a lot of gurus outside that they have their agenda. And by the way, you can find one reference that supports you for everything that you want to say. I can find a reference that said that vitamin D help you to improve your dishwashing quality, which is it doesn't make sense at all, but I assume that I can find something like that. So what you and your team have done here is we, instead of looking at everything, we looked only on a data that we know and believe that is very clean and unbiased as much as we can. And then it's in a computer science, you have to say garbage in, garbage out. Yep. We tried as much as we could not to let garbage go in. And then the quality of the data is much better. I want to add another point that part of our blogs are those episodes of Longevity by Design. And we have more than 60 of those. And we interviewed a leading scientist in longevity and health. And all of them are PhD or above and people that we really vetted before we invited them to be a guest in this podcast. And even after that, we are reviewing the blog. So our producer, our scientist, and a lot of time I'm reviewing it, the blog of Longevity by Design, to be sure that no garbage is going there. So basically, the quality of the input for our model is very good. And that's why the quality of what you receive is supposed to be much better than what you should expect from normal ChatGPT. And we discussed it before, when you look on something specific for yourself, you might see that there are a lot of things that are not right, but the ChatGPT is very assertive. So you believe, oh yeah, he's right, but actually it's wrong. So that's the worst case, that you hear it so assertive, you say, oh, it's right, but no, it's wrong. So I think that's a great achievement in my opinion. And it's a good, actually, foundation to my next question. And that's the product that we are discussing today, Ask AI or Ask InsideTracker. So can you now describe it, and what is that product, and who can enjoy it? What is the best way to use it, and so on?
As a Longevity by Design podcast listener, you understand the value of improving your health for today and for all the years ahead. And if you want to live your healthiest, longest life possible, you need to understand what's going on inside. At InsideTracker, we take a personalized approach to health span optimization that eliminates guesswork from your wellness plan. InsideTracker analyzes blood biomarker and DNA data, along with physiomarker data from fitness trackers like Oura Ring, to deliver personalized food, supplement, lifestyle, and exercise recommendations that allow you to take control and improve your health span. And for a limited time, Longevity by Design listeners can get 20% off at the InsideTracker store. So if you're ready to receive a personal health analysis and data-driven wellness plan to optimize your body for the long haul, then it's time to start inside. Visit insidetracker.com/podcast to get started today. That's insidetracker.com/podcast to get started today.
Yeah, absolutely. So really the goal of Ask InsideTracker, and like I said, I'll give you credit for this and not me credit for it, but really the goal of it is to be able to have an interactive way to essentially engage and have a conversation with all of those blogs and all of those LBD, Longevity by Design episodes, right? So this is another way that I like to think about LLMs, is they enable you to have this interface to be able to have a conversation with a large body of data or knowledge. So we wanted to give that opportunity to our members. So in order to be able to access this product feature, which is called Ask InsideTracker, is you do have to be logged in to either the app or to your web-based account on InsideTracker. And then there's a button that you can click there. And then you can just, there's this window that gives you information about, some disclaimers like, right now, please do not put your personal health information in there. And, you should always verify the answers, even though, we have made a highly refined model based on all of our our InsideTracker knowledge, or some of our InsideTracker knowledge. And we'll talk about why it's not all of our InsideTracker knowledge later. But, even though it is highly refined compared to just the generic GPT-4, the GPT-4 model, still, there's always the possibility that it can confidently answer a question incorrectly. And of course, we did a lot of QA and re-engineering of the way that the feature works in order to refine this as much as possible. But, no matter what, using any type of LLM-based chatbot, even one that has been very specifically fit for purpose designed, if you're trying to make a very important, let's say, medical decision, then we would reviewing that with an expert.
Yeah, and I want to emphasize the process of the development, because I'm not sure that our audience understand how long your team worked on that. We start by developing it and cleaning it, and then tested it internally, and then we provide the tool for our customer success team, and they used it and reviewed it. And then more recently, we soft release it to some of our customers and received maybe thousands of questions, and we review those and have seen that the success rate is pretty high. I would say that it's around the 90%, but you might have a bit understanding. It's not 100%, so it's not always right, but it's very close to 90%, which is very good. And basically, it's allow you, as we said before, for foundation models or LLM, it's allow you to basically ask question and then look at all those 700 blogs and receive one short paragraph that summarizes all of that. So it saves you a lot of work. And I might call it like a health coach in your pocket or on your phone that basically help you to guide you to do exactly what you are supposed to do. So it's a really great achievement. And it sounds like, from what I'm seeing so far, our user base love it. They ask a lot of questions. I was surprised how many questions they're asking. And so far, so good, but it's just the beginning. And before we continue to what is next, Renee, I think that it's a very important question that I'm hearing a lot of people asking me, and hearing from you that a lot of people asking you, and I'm hearing everyone in the world asking this question. And the specific question is, what is the difference between what your team at InsideTracker, the Ask InsideTracker or Ask AI, and what ChatGPT is providing? And I know that we already discussed it a bit, but I think that would be good for us to summarize it here again.
Yeah, sure. So both Ask InsideTracker and ChatGPT are based on the GPT form. So that's really the engine that sits at the heart of both. But the difference here is in their specialization. So the InsideTracker model, like I mentioned, allows you to have kind of a very formed conversation with those 700 plus blog posts, the LBD related blog posts. And by the way, like just what you said, I'm not going to read 700 blog posts, right? Probably the vast majority of people are not going to read 700 plus blog posts. So that's why this is so special, is because it allows you to just take whatever is really important to you at the time and then query those 700 blog posts. And so the machine in this case does all of the work. You don't have to read the 700 because it will read those 700 for you and then formulate an answer. But really the difference, given that both have that GPT-4 engine at the heart of it, really the difference is the specialization. And right now, Ask InsideTracker is specialized for health and wellness information. It's specifically health and wellness information that is related to the kind of panoply of different things that we measure, right? And that we care about at InsideTracker. So, we care very much about what your blood biomarkers look like. We care very much about looking at different wellness traits using genomic information. We care very much about fitness tracker data, right? And the importance of that. We care very much about exercise and nutrition and supplements, sleep, and meditation and recovery. So all of those topics, longevity, right? Cognition, all of the different aspects that we've written about do have some connection to things that we measure, but ultimately health span, longevity, preventive health, supporting people. We just had a blog post on how do we support you if you're on a GLP-1 agonist, right? There are some side effects of these medications that could be mitigated through lifestyle changes. But ultimately, that's really what InsideTracker cares about, is providing our members with the best possible evidence-based set of lifestyle prescriptions. So things that you can do to improve your health without without needing a prescription from a doctor. So that's really what our blog corpus is focused on.
Yeah, and I think that let's zoom in for a second on the Longevity by Design podcast. So we have, as of today, around 65 episodes. And if you want to view all of them or to listen to all of them, it's at least 65 hours more. But if you are really interested in what metformin is doing, or what is the best NAD analog, or what is the evidence that NAD analog is, what is the evidence that should I use NAD analog or not, you can just write it in Ask AI or Ask InsideTracker and receive immediately an answer that came from the best scientists in the world that's studying this domain, which if you do it with ChatGPT, they are there as well, but they are contaminated by a lot of gurus that coming with a different way of thinking. So I think that's much cleaner, and again, will most likely provide you a better answer. So great job for you and your team. And my next question, Renee, is what...
I really want to emphasize that point that you just made. I think, essentially what InsideTracker does, and the reason why I like our product, I realize I work here, so I'm a little biased, but I would say it's part of one of the reasons why I took the job, right, is because I think it's very difficult to sift out signal from noise in the health and wellness industry, right? I mean, when we're talking about medication, you have MDs that give you information, right? But you also have the FDA that regulates medication. And, medications have to go through a very rigorous process before they're approved to be sold in the United States and abroad, right? Through various governing bodies. And, the wellness industry isn't quite like that. And like you said, there's a lot of gurus out there. I mean, even when I scroll Instagram, I can scroll by a very convincing post about a health topic And then when you really dig in, you find out that it's just that guru's impression of that one paper that they read, when really they're not talking about the 5 papers that didn't show it, right? So yeah, I think that this, as an ability, like it continues InsideTracker's mission, I would say, to be able to decipher signal from noise when it comes to lifestyle prescription. The way that we decipher signal from noise is through evidence. And that evidence is, well, how many clinical studies looked at it in people, right? Mice, not dogs, petri dishes, but like, has this been shown to work in people multiple times over and in multiple people? So I think, sorry to double click on that, but
what about frogs? What about frogs? Frogs are okay?
Frogs are definitely not okay.
Okay.
You know,
I just checked it. Okay, so that's amazing, and I agree with you. It's a very exciting development, but we can always do better. And so, what is next in the horizon for using LLM in InsideTracker? What is your vision for that?
Yeah, so just speaking super tactically, we will have launched, we've launched this feature, and I agree with you. It's like people are asking such amazing questions because, of course, we do look to see, what are the questions people are asking, what are the answers we're giving them, because that is still part of our refinement process. If we find that there are a lot of errors being made, then we can, do a little bit more engineering to make sure that error doesn't show up again. Right. So, I think it's very important to note with any type of chatbot, there should be a process of continual refinement, even, for example, after it is launched to the public. So, frankly, these questions and answers give us a very good opportunity to further improve the performance of the chatbot. And like you mentioned before, we actually kind of have this interesting process of any like science related customer support question that might come up. We'll actually take a look and see if the chatbot, can answer question, even though it wasn't actually specifically designed to be a customer support chatbot. Like that actually would be a different type of specialization. So we're always looking at that and just trying to refine the existing model. But, like we mentioned before, right now, this version, we'll call it, Ask InsideTracker 1.0, allows anybody to have a conversation with LBD in the blog post, etc., that corpus of knowledge. What it doesn't currently access right now is your individual blood biomarker data or physio data or, food frequency questionnaire data. So it actually is giving you answers without knowing, all of the things that actually InsideTracker knows about you. So you can't right now have a conversation with all of your own data that we have. But that's definitely something that we would like to do in the next iteration of it. And we can kind of tell by the questions that people are asking it that, I think that our member base would be really interested in adding those features. But of course, one of the things that that's really important to us is privacy and security. And so if we were to create this next version of a chatbot where you could have a conversation with your own data, we would be putting, a lot of, extra precautionary measures in place, essentially firewalls to make sure that nobody has access to your private information.
Yeah, and I just want to emphasize this point because it can be an amazing tool if it will be possible for us to build it, is that we have thousands of rules about what should you eat if your glucose is high, cholesterol is high, and you are jumping on one foot and you live in Boston versus in California. Yeah. But only part of it is applying to you. So right now, in a way, you need really to define it. And with this tool that you discussed, if we will be able to build it, basically I can come and say, hey, InsideTracker, what should I eat now? And InsideTracker know my level of blood biomarkers and my physio marker and whether I slept well last night or not, and what is my resting heart rate and what is my VO2 max. And it know that I went for a bike ride for 45 minutes in the morning and immediately provide to me the answer without me needing to refine it. So it's super personalized for you, like a laser focus that comes say, what you need to eat right now? You need to eat this protein bar that have 20 gram, but because you went for an hour and a half a bike ride, you need two of those. And you also need to eat 2 cups of oatmeal and drink 51 ounces of water. So it will be very personalized for you and without you needing to refine. And you can ask also, oh, I mean, this area, what is the best restaurant for me? And maybe in the future again, maybe I'm dreaming, but then it's like, actually, this restaurant that is 1 mile from here, but the dish there, the dish number 10 is the best for you because it says this amount of fiber, this amount of protein, and this amount of, I don't know, magnesium. So that can be an amazing tool. Like I always thought about the guardian angel for health, and that's exactly what Ask AI V2 can or 2.0 can do, which today we are getting closer, but we are not there yet. So amazing vision, Renee, and I really hope that we'll see it soon. I would like to ask a more general question about LLM generally. So I think that a lot of people are looking for the future. Some of them are really excited. I assume that you and me are very excited, saying, okay, what is next? We really want to see it. Some other a bit scared because they're saying, oh, we might not need lawyers anymore because the LLM can contracts in 2 seconds and we might not need this occupation and that occupation. So if you had a crystal ball and you looked, I don't know, a couple of years ahead, what do you see, what in your opinion will be the future and what will be the best use case of LLM in the future?
Yeah, all of that is great. And even, you know, I am now much more confident about saying that we would be able to provide a really, truly valuable tool to our users that like would enable them to have a conversation with their own data. I think the use cases you gave were excellent examples. And they would also be able to, I know in other podcasts, we've talked a lot about Sectera X, which is our engine, our recommendation engine essentially, and which actually relies on a different type of artificial intelligence. It's not machine learning, it's not LLMs, it's not natural language processing, but it's a type of AI called knowledge representation and reasoning. And essentially what this allows us to do is comb through the results of thousands and thousands of clinical studies and then apply using really complex kind of logic like a health coach would, apply the findings of all of those studies to you, specifically, Gil, at this point in time with your, data from the last 6 months from your fitness trackers and your blood biomarkers and all the other information you have with you. So I think that we're probably going to see more and more types of chatbots that are really interacting with, let's say, an individual person's health data, or as we would call it, like your corner of Sectera X, all of the different clinical studies and the logic and the thinking, about how to apply those clinical studies specifically to you. Because there might have been a whole bunch of clinical studies on how you can, decrease your cortisol levels, but my cortisol levels are fine, so they're not relevant to me. But some other ones about triglycerides are, for example. So I think that we are actually going to see more and more of what exactly we're doing, right? More and more companies, and I should say institutions and even individuals, are figuring out ways to take these general models and then modify them so they're fit exactly to their kind of subject matter expert purpose. I also think that we're going to see improvements in the quality of responses, even from the general models. Like the general models themselves are starting to get better at sifting out the signal from the noise, just providing higher quality, more contextual answers. So one of the kind of interesting developments that's happening in the LLM world, and this is something that actually already happened in the machine learning world, so really, is the use of ensemble models. So that's just, you create a model, and in this case, like GPT-4 would be an example of a model, but actually creating, kind of combining the outputs of multiple models together tends to give you a higher quality answer. So I'll give you an example. There are lots of different types of machine learning models that make predictions about biological data. For example, let's say you want to predict whether you're going to respond to a specific stat. Or typically, you would use an ensemble model approach, which kind of like takes into account the outcomes of many different specific models. It could be 3, it could be 9, it could be 20. So a bunch of different, you just kind of take the responses, and the performance of the many is usually better than the one. And the reason why is because every time you build a model, so for example, GPT-4, there is bias in that model. And, even OpenAI does everything that they can to eliminate bias in that model. No matter what, it still exists. It's just a feature of any type of model. So usually when you kind of combine the output of many different models together, it can kind of help balance out some of the weaknesses of maybe an individual type of approach. So, it's just like in computational biology where you kind of want to like try a couple different methods and see the same result, and then you can feel pretty good about where you are.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Renee, for the explanation. And I hope that this discussion help our audience to understand more about LLM and foundation models, and when to use it and when not to use it, and what we develop in InsideTracker. And I recommend everyone that is an InsideTracker user to try it. It's now available in the mobile app and on the website, so you're more than welcome to try. And I would like to wrap up our discussion, Renee, with more like a general recommendation. We spoke about laser focus, but now we will widen our view. And basically, one recommendation that you would like to provide to our audience of what should they do in order to live better longer?
Wait, can you say that again? Sorry.
What is your recommendation for them? What should they do in order to live better longer? What is your recommendation for them? If they can make one modification in their lifestyle, what is the one intervention that you recommend them to do?
That one's really hard. And I feel like I might have talked about this before, but my trainer always talks about a 3-legged stool of really needing a balance between nutrition, exercise, and then recovery. And something that I think is really interesting is like, ask yourself this question: out of those 3 things, like, is one leg longer than the other? And for me, it's really easy for me to exercise. I like exercising. I like moving. It's sort of organic. I don't always like thinking about what to eat. I don't sleep super well. So, I might be doing a great job on exercise, but my other 2 pillars are rough. Now, with that said, it's also easier for me to exercise. So I actually think that the best habit that you can do is the one that you can stick to. So I think find something small that you wanted to work on and like literally start super small. So I guess that my recommendation isn't necessarily one thing, but it's more that like, figure out where you're struggling and then set the bar crazy low. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, I have, in the last couple of years, I've tried to develop more of a sitting meditation practice. It's really hard for me. Like a puppy that hasn't been walked. So sitting is really difficult, but I think there's something very specific about sitting that's important. So I got pretty good and pretty consistent at it for a while, but I have been off the wagon, and now I'm trying to get on the wagon. And literally, I just have said for 1 minute. And it used to be 5. Like, that's how I got myself started years ago. But now it is down to 1. So, but it's working. I have consistently sat for 1 minute every day for the last 7 days. So I feel pretty good about that. So I think the one thing you can do for your health is find the thing that you're not doing that you want to do and then make it crazy easy. And you could even say, like, you're not allowed to even sit for more than a minute for the first 2 weeks. Like, even if you want to, don't do it. Go away. Make it really easy for you. So I think that's what I would say. I feel like my answer is different every time, but.
No, that's good. I think that's a very good answer. And I agree with you. There is no one thing that you should do. They are very dependent to the person. And that's all the mantra of InsideTracker. Find your weak point, focus on that, make it better. And a few weeks later or a few months later, the weak point will be a different weak point.
Yeah.
Focus on that, make it better. And at the end, hopefully you will become the best person that you can be. And that's at the end will allow you to live better longer. So it's not like, again, there is no cookie cutter. There is no guru that will tell you, hey, just eat a paleo diet and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
No, some people, paleo diet is good for them, some other are not. So
Definitely not.
very good answer. And thank you so much for that. And I would like to wrap up and thank you for a great discussion and interview and enlightening our audience about machine learning, artificial intelligence, LLM, ChatGPT, and the new and exciting Ask InsideTracker product that your team developed. And we are looking forward to exploring the research in the field of longevity each month with you and the other leading scientists. For more information, please go to www.insidetracker.com/podcast. Thank you so much, Renee, and I hope to host you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Longevity by Design. Please subscribe to this podcast on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. Longevity by Design is powered by InsideTracker, a personalized health optimization platform that helps people improve their lives by improving their bodies from the inside out using personalized, science-backed recommendations for nutrition, supplements, and lifestyle changes. To learn more, visit InsideTracker.com/podcast.